ready? It's the Roundtable with me, Robert Bannon. All right, so welcome to the Roundtable. My name is Robert Bannon, and yes, you can listen to us not only on YouTube, but also on the Broadway Podcast Network. So if you're working out, if you're on the street, if you're in the subway, welcome. We're excited to be here. Sadly, you can't see our next guest if you're listening, but if you're watching on YouTube, you can. You've seen him on stage. You've seen him on television. I'm not even going to go through the credits of his novella days because you don't want to hear me speak Spanish. But I got a chance to see him on your feet, and I've gotten a chance to see him sing. And he has an amazing show coming back to 54 Below after he sold it out. Wait till you see him when his tuxedo walk through that crowd. He is an entertainer's entertainer. Ladies and gentlemen, Mauricio Martinez is here.
Hey, hello, Robert.
It's so good to see you. I see you out and about at cabaret shows. You've joined us in one of our very first episodes, which was where we surprised Robbie Roselle.
Yes.
And now I get you it's just us. I'm so excited to have you here.
Which is amazing. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Are you kidding? I find your voice is beautiful. You are an amazing performer on stage, and your story is pretty inspiring and amazing as well.
Thank you. I've had a life, quite the life, right?
When did you realize like the bug hit you? When did you know that you had a voice and that you had something you wanted to sing about and say?
I mean, good question. I mean, I guess ever since I can remember, I knew that I wanted to be a performer. You know, I grew up in Mexico, and my mom was very inclined in. She's a big lover of old Hollywood musicals. So she would play me everything from like Singing in the Rain to Hello Dolly, Sound of Music. And then I discovered Grease. And I just fell in love with the movie. I wanted to be John Travolta so bad. And in Mexico, there is, Grease is very beloved in Mexico. It's produced like once every decade. And it lasts forever. And it's like a huge hit. And there was this group of teenagers back then that did it. Well, first there was a group there's like 10 years older than me. And they did it in the 80s when I was like 5 or 6, and I saw it first. And it just blew my mind. And I couldn't understand at first why I was watching the same story as the movie, but it was done in Spanish and with like pop stars. And then I realized, oh, this is the theater version, you know, and you can do this in any language. And I just fell in love with what musicals did. You know, I just was transported. And then a couple years later, a teenage group did it again, and they were my age now. So I was like, I can do this. And I just really wanted to do what they did. And I wanted to sing and dance on stage. And I was pretty much influenced by film first, by musical film, Hollywood films. And I didn't even know where Broadway was until later in life. I realized that it was a theater district in New York. It was a street in New York. And I had never been to New York, but I just knew that I wanted to be here and that I had to be here. I didn't know how. And I guess I always sang, you know, ever since I can remember, I had a voice. I would mimic at first as a kid artists that I liked, you know, like Michael Jackson growing up. And I would try to mimic their voices. And I was pretty good at it. I had perfect pitch ever since I can remember. I never studied music until I was in my teenage years, where I started to vocalize, and I really learned how to develop this talent that I knew that I had. And yeah, it just kind of snowballed from there.
And it snowballs. It has from doing work on screen to on stage. You know, I thought of you when I was about to do this interview. I went a couple of weeks ago to see Once Upon a One More Time, and Gloria and Emilio Estefan sat next to me.
Oh, my dear Gloria and Emilio.
And I literally, it was one of those moments where it was like, it was intermission, and I was walking past and I heard the voice. It was this little late, and I was like, oh my, you know, like to play an iconic role like Emilio and Gloria and be on stage and do that show 8 shows a week and tell her story.
Yes.
Living your own story and your own personal story of overcoming adversity. I know you've spoken about it. You've had health scares and you fought your way through a lot of adversity throughout your life. How does that tie into when you create art and when you live your life? What does living through that and being a survivor mean to you?
I mean, I think it has everything to do with it, you know, because life imitates art and art imitates life. You know, I think that it's very important to keep it real and keep it honest, because ultimately it does stem from you. You know, you are artists. We are our own instrument, our bodies, our stories, our personal battles, our triumphs, our failures, the lessons we learn, relationships. It's all part of it. You know, it's especially when you're a theater performer, when you're a concert artist, such as myself, you're definitely not performing anyone. You're not playing anyone when you go out there and do a show, a concert. It's you. So I do pull from life. And my shows are very autobiographical, very, very much so. So yeah, I mean, everything that I've gone through, I'm a 4-time cancer survivor. And yeah, I've definitely had some battles with mental health, depression, everything. I think I've had my fair share of battles that I've succeeded in the battle so far. So I must be doing something right. But I do talk about that. And I feel very proud of being a survivor and of being resilient. Just being in this country, being an immigrant, learning another language, learning another culture, leaving an established career in Mexico and moving to New York in my late 30s was risky, but I just follow my heart. And that's how I lead my life. I follow my heart and I lead with my heart. And I think that comes through and comes across in everything I do, you know. I have to. I don't know another way to be. You know, yes, I'm Latino and Latinos are very passionate. Yes, I'm Mexican and Mexicans are very warm-blooded. But I'm also, I wear my heart on my sleeve. And I just really don't know another way to be than that, you know?
That's what makes great art. That's what makes great concert experiences. And I got to see a video. I snuck a secret peek at your video of your last show.
Oh.
Maybe someone sent it to me on the down low and I watched it.
Okay.
But
I know who that down low may be, by the way. My co-writer and director and best friend in the world, my dear Robbie Roselle.
Robbie Roselle, who is the director and co-writer with you and this. Yeah. He told me about this idea of this show when you were doing it the first time. And everyone, before we talk about what the show is, everyone needs to go get October 5th and 6th at 7 o'clock, 511, based in New York City at NYC. You can get your tickets at 54below.org.
Who is that guy?
Not even one bit of airbrushing or touching at all to this photo.
No, there is a bit.
You came up with this idea, 511 based in NYC. Tell people what the premise of this show is and why.
We both did. I think both Robbie and I came up with it because I had all these self-tapes that I did, you know, through since the pandemic. Everybody that is an actor, especially in New York musical theater, we've asked to put ourselves on self-tapes and sing songs in the comfort of our living room. And we have to be our own director, makeup artist, reader, lighting designer, everything, director. It's quite the adventure every time you're asked to do a self-tape. And of course, I'm lucky enough to get many requests. So I had all these sides and sheet music that I didn't really know what to do with. And Robbie was like, well, what if we do a show around them? You know, I've auditioned for some major roles on Broadway. And I said, you know what? I think it's the perfect excuse to, and also add in a couple of my favorites, some which I've played, characters that I played, you know, like Che or Don Quixote, but others that I would love to play, you know, like the Phantom or even King George. So we created the set list, which is amazing. It's like, I mean, it is like, it's filled with 11 o'clock numbers. It is very ambitious, but it's also very funny. It's very personal. And 511 based in New York is basically how I describe myself on my slate. You know, for those of you who don't know what a slate is what an actor has to say right before the audition. You know, you have to say your name, your height, and where you're based. You know, so I'm Mauricio Martinez, 511 based in New York. And that's basically the intro. And yeah, I go through a series of scenes and songs. I have some readers, I have some special guests, and I talk about what life as an actor has been in the past 3 years. And it's an homage with humor, with some nostalgia, with love, but with lots of humor too, to some of the best shows that are currently running on Broadway. So it's the perfect excuse to sing these songs and play these roles for 3 or 4 minutes, which is nice. you know?
Perfect. I mean, it's such a brilliant idea. It's such a fun idea. I know we're literally in the middle of a SAG strike, a Writers Guild strike,
Yeah.
and one of the big topics of conversation is the ideas behind self-taping. Because when you self-tape, you're learning songs, you're learning pages, you're getting dressed
Yeah.
up, you're in front of the camera, you're doing take after take. They ask specific things about full body views and turning your head, and they give you
Oh
all.
yeah.
You spend a lot of time to send this off. And then if you never hear back or you don't book the job, you've learned this song. Now you've taken all that time and put it to use.
Exactly. So what better use than to do a live show? And it went so well. It was an experiment. You know, we threw it out there. We did it in like a month. I had the date open and I said, okay, let's do this show. And it sold out. And I got the best reviews of my career, you know, really. And it was so overwhelming, the amount of love and support that we got. And it was one review specifically that Stephen Mosher wrote on BroadwayWorld. And he said, this show, he said lovely things, obviously, but at the end he said, this show needs an encore and this show needs a live album. And that's when I said, you know what? I'm going to listen to this advice. You know, he certainly knows what he's talking about. He's been around the block for a while and he knows, he's seen it all. He's seen Cheetah Rivera, Vanessa Williams, Linda Ether, Lin-Manuel, like you name it, he's seen it. So I said, you know what? It's time for a live album. I've never done one. I really want to have one. And I think this show encapsulates perfectly who I am in this stage of my life. And yeah, so I'm very excited to be doing these 2 nights on October 5th and 6th here in New York at my beloved 54 Below, which is really like an extension of my home. I love that place. I think it's the venue with the best sound in New York. I do. And I love it. I love it there. It's intimate. It's the right size. We're not going to live stream it because we're recording the live album. And I'm just very excited and nervous, but very happy about this live album, which will be my first ever English album. I have 2 other albums that I did in Mexico, Latin pop, and they're all in Spanish. And this is my first ever English album. And what better way to do it than live? Because that's who I am. You know, yes. I am a recording artist and I do TV, but I'm more than anything in the world, I'm a live entertainer. You know, I'm a concert artist and a musical theater actor, performer. So yeah, I think it's right. It's fitting to do it now.
You need to get your tickets because they're going to go because, you know, once
hopefully
the word is out, you're going to be a part of a live album. You're going to be in the audience. It will be immortalized forever. You can stream it wherever music is heard after when it's out and mastered and fixed and done. And
yes.
You get to be a part of this journey, this very intimate, you know, you're talking about 120 seats. You're talking about you get a little Caesar salad and a glass of wine or whatever you like to do. And you're not going to be further than 20 or 30 feet from you. It's literally like you're watching.
Which is amazing. And then after the show, we get to hang out a little bit and I get to meet the people that come. And I've had the privilege of doing at least one show every year in that venue. And it's amazing. Every year I get surprises. I have fans from like all over the world, people that have seen like me in like TV shows that I did in Mexico. People flew in from Spain last time. There's people that come from Mexico, people that I've never met before and that they decide to fly in just to see the show, or American people that have discovered me here through videos, you know, of 54 Below or Playbill or Broadway.com or BroadwayWorld or any theater outlet. And it's beautiful to watch. And it's, I feel like they're my new friends and it's beautiful. It's really, last concert that I did in March, which is exactly the same concert we're doing this time around, was one of the best nights of my life. I just felt so happy in the end, you know, the adrenaline that and I felt also so proud. Robbie really understood. He understands my humor. He understands my voice. And working together with the amazing Brian J. Nash, who is, I think, one of the best musical directors out there right now in this industry. He also understands the risks that I want to take vocally and the journey that I want to take the audience to. I'm a huge fan of old school performers, you know, like Barbra Streisand. You know, I like those types of shows, which is kind of like more of a cabaret show, which we're not used to in Mexico. In Mexico, we don't really use these type of concerts. You know, the artist just comes out and sings songs. Every now and then there's a little banter, but not a lot. But since I'm an actor and I grew up watching people like Barbara, like Bette Midler, like all these storytellers that are also actors, not only singers, I pretty much took what I watched from them and now I implement it into my own words, into my own music, into my own um, audience, and I think the result is very nice. I'm very happy with it. You know.
Well, I already put it in my book. I will
Oh,
be
good.
on the 15th. I've read the reviews, I've seen the clips, I've talked to Robbie, I've talked to you now about. I have to see this because
Yes.
it is you are just the charisma and the charm and that voice. And thank you for being so truthful and honest with your story through your years, because you help a lot of people and we see your work and we hear your voice and what you bring light to, and it helps and heals a lot of people out here that are going through the same thing.
No, thank you. That means a lot to me because ultimately that's what it's all about. You know, it would be very boring to me to just have a career. I mean, no judgment to who they handle their career that way, but it would, if it were all about triumphs and like, oh, this beautiful album cover and all this beautiful concert that I did and oh, this award that I got, and I mean, it would be just boring to me because life is not like that. Life is not always perfect. You know, we all go through our own trials and tribulations, and it's, you have to be very transparent, especially nowadays. I think people like honesty and transparency, and I am very vocal with the fights that I really want to fight for. You know, like mental health awareness, like obviously fighting against cancer. You know, and I'm very vocal about it because I've gone through them. So and that just brings me closer to the people that follow me and that support me. You know, ultimately, it is the audience, it is the public who decides how long you stay in this business, you know. And I mean, the followers just keep growing, and that's a beautiful sign, and I'm very grateful. I don't take it for granted. And yeah, I just want to give my best because I'm very fortunate to do what I love. You know, we're very fortunate, Robert. We get to do what we love and get paid for it in times where it's not that easy. You know, we're in the middle of a strike for TV and film. We just came out of the pandemic. You know, being a performer, especially in the US, is not easy nowadays. So we get to do it, and so might as well like just do it the whole way. We gotta like make it happen, and we better have something to deliver. You know, because people are paying for a ticket to come see you. You're literally raised above, and you have to have something to deliver. So I bring myself, I bring my authenticity and my heart and my favorite songs. I'm doing one in Spanish too that I dedicate to my mom. So yeah, you'll get to listen to Phantom of the Opera, Music of the Night in Spanish. So I'm very excited that it's gonna be immortalized in an album. So I'll always have that bond with my mom because that's my mom's dream role for me, and I talk about that in the show. You know, every time she comes to New York to one of my shows or to see me on Broadway or off Broadway or whatever, I always tell her, Mom, choose one or two shows and I'll treat you. You know, and she always would pick Phantom. I'm like, Mom, you've seen it a million times. You know, she saw the movie like literally 50 times in the movie theater. She's in love with the Phantom, and every time she picks the Phantom. And after coming out of the show, the first words that come out her mouth are always like, "I can't wait for you to be the Phantom." So that's like my mom's drill. Of course, I don't know if I'm gonna make it come true because the show closed now. But if it ever comes back, or until then, we'll have my own Spanish version of this immortal.
It'll be back. There's a lot of words in it in English, so I can't imagine to learn it in Spanish is a whole thing.
I like it better in Spanish.
I can't wait.
It is so much more romantic and passionate, I think, and I think that's like a fan favorite. Everybody, not to blow my own horn, but everybody really liked this version, and I'm very excited to also represent my culture and my heritage and my language. You know, my mother tongue, shall I say?
Yes.
I always have to throw in at least one song in Spanish because that's who I am ultimately, and I don't get to work in Spanish a lot anymore. And I miss it because it is my language, you know?
We need that moment, Mauricio.
Yes.
I can't, everyone, 54below.org. You got to follow him on Instagram with all the other, I mean, everyone is, you got to follow him on social media. Follow him on social media, get your tickets. And again, we're talking about the show. It's coming here. It is going to be here. before you know it, October 5th and 6th at 7 o'clock. If you go and you use Mauricio5, you can even get $5 off thanks to the people over there at 54 Below. So make sure you use the code when you check out and you can grab your tickets and make a date night out of it. Make a special night out of it. Be immortalized on this live album event.
Mauricio, and I have two special guests I'm forgetting.
Yes,
the wonderful Alexis Michelle from Drag Race and the one and only Lineri Genau from Bad Cinderella, who's always will forever be a part of my On Your Feet family. So that makes me very, very happy, and I'm very excited.
Talk about singers and voices and people who know how to perform.
Yeah, and I have a special appearance. She's not here. She's in England playing Ava Gardner in the new Sinatra musical. But my Broadway wife, Ana Villafaña, does make an appearance. A special appearance, so I'm very excited about that too.
Talk about 3 stars. Those are some 3 big. Those are some 3 amazing.
I know how to pick them. No, I'm very grateful that they said yes. You know, and I'm very excited. It's going to be a wonderful 2 nights. We get 2 nights. I've never done 2 nights back to back, so I'm nervous. Now we gotta fill the seats.
You're the best. I appreciate you, friend. I look forward to being there, and I look forward to so much more music and so much more stage and so much more work to come because you give us your all, and it's so inspiring to see. So thank you so much for being here. I really
thank you so much for having me, Robert. I send you a big hug, and I'll see you on October 5th.
I'll see you October 5th.